So you moved down to Melbourne with your then wife, and you were working 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. 5 days a week. You went 30 minutes to get to training on those afternoons, and then you were training for 2 hours every afternoon. You work Saturdays, you train for 2 hours Saturday afternoon, and then you train for another 4 hours on Sunday afternoon. Down in Melbourne, the gym wasn't heated. It's obviously a colder climate than being up north where you are at the moment, particularly in winter. You really had to work hard in those early days, and you learned a lot about what strong work ethic looked like, didn't you?
Yeah, well, yeah, when I went down there, the club promised me they'd get me accommodation and promised they'd get me a job, and I got both of them myself. They didn't really come through with it, no fault of their own. But yeah, so like you said, I trained every afternoon. We played Wednesdays and we played Thursday nights. But not only that, I would train every lunchtime at the YMCA at Footscray, not far from the Footscray footy ground. And and I had a job. It was a manual job. I was working for Dunlop Tyres. I was working for Bow Repair Tyres then, which is quite interesting. Was an Olympic, John Bow Repair. He was the one that founded the Bow Repair Tyre Service, and he was an Olympic swimmer. But yeah, I had a job. I had to go to Esso Petrol every morning at 6 o'clock and check all their tyres. If they're flat, I had to take them off and fix them up, put them back on. And when I'd finished there, I had to go to another big trucking firm. So Melbourne weather in winter is not that great. And in summer, well, it can be winter as well. So, I had it was tough mornings. It really was tough mornings, lifting these big truck tire wheels and things like that. So it was a very manual job and what have you. But I worked hard and I got up to a salesman position anyway. And then when the Olympics come up in '72, I asked if I could have. I was owed a week's holiday, and I asked if I could have another 2 weeks off to go to the Olympics. And they said, "Oh, no, we can't do that. If we did it for you, we'd have to do it for everybody that worked in the company that went to the Olympics." Well, I was the first one since John Bow Repair. And so anyway, I then started up my own tyre business. That was my first business. And, I borrowed, I think it was £1,000 from a friend and set it all up and built it up. And I employed 18 to 20 people in the end. And then I retired from that, or sold it out because I wanted to work in basketball more, and I went and worked for Victorian Basketball. So and then I was doing the media there. I ran a radio show. I did all the advertising. I did media, like I said, sponsorship, all that type of thing. And here's the kid young man who's failed year 10 sort of thing, or we didn't even get to year 10. So it wasn't an easy life, but gee, mate, I had to make it work, and it did work for me, sort of thing. So nothing was handed to me, nothing at all. And that's why I get annoyed today with kids. They think the world owes them a favour. They don't owe the world anything. The world don't owe you nothing. You got to make your way, and you got to make the world a better place to live. And that's what I want to do.
Yeah, it's funny that Bo retires. Like every employee that comes through the door is going to be an Olympian, and they're going to have to give that extra leave away. Funny.
Yeah, Olympians are there. There's hundreds of them every day. It's just how crazy it is. But then again, that's the mentality of people of those days, sort of thing. But it's great now to see that Olympians are respected a lot more, and a lot of them have good pathways into getting jobs and things like that, because that's a very important field.
Yeah, and so take us back to just before the 1968 Olympics. So just like we said, there's a lot of points throughout this story where you'll see things come together and you believe that everything happens for a reason. There are also a number of really important mentors, some of which we've already discussed, and that will continue to come up. But one of those was Michael Arnett. And in 1968 for the Olympics, you were watching that team before they went off to Mexico. And you sat there one day watching them run around, train, and you're basically identifying who you could be better than, who could you pip at the next Olympic trials. And he kind of took you under his wing and really showed you the ropes and gave you a really nice introduction to what would eventually become your Olympic berth, your first Olympics.
Yeah, well, Michael, I used to go every day and watch him train, and he came up to me one day, put his hand on my shoulder, and said, "Kerle, you don't know much about me," which I did know because he was one heck of a player. He could pass the ball. He was like Cousy, who played for the Boston Celtics, and could just land the ball on a dime. But Michael said, "Kerle, he said, if there's anything I can ever do for you, if I can help you, support you, give you some advice, give you some mentoring, mate, just call me, Now, here's an Aboriginal man, and I'm a white fella. For him to do that, I thought that was special, and I really do to this day. And I'm very good friends with his two daughters and his son, who lives over in America. But Michael, and then we went on, and it turned out that Michael was the first Aboriginal man the first man to represent Australia in the Olympic Games in Tokyo in 1960. Tokyo was 64. So he was the first Aboriginal man from Queensland, and I was the second, and I was a white fella. So but if anyone I want to come second to would be Michael Armat. But I found that out from his daughters that he was born in Townsville, and I'm really honoured to be second to Michael Armat to play for Australia in the Olympics from Queensland. And that's something no one can take away from me. So I'm very, very proud of that. And that's one of the reasons why I dedicate a lot of the Indigenous work I do today.
And a lot of people tried to take it away from you. There were people who told you you'd never make first or second grade when you went to St Kilda. They said you would never be a good coach when you went into coaching. There were even doubts that you would make the semi-finals in your first year at St Kilda, and you ended up making the grand final. Tell us a bit about how you overcome the people who tried to tear you down.
Well, everyone, when someone's successful, I don't know, we're a funny race of people, Australians. We always do like to knock out people around us that are successful and things like that. And I know, it's a little bit tall poppy system, a little bit, they're what is it? They're not, the self-confidence is down, or they're there's something wrong somewhere there. But, to say that to me, I thought was very insulting. But, and I went straight into the Div 1 team down there at St Kilda, and we played in the grand final against the Melbourne Tigers, which was, and they kicked our butts, but we soon turned that around in the next 1 or 2 years. So from there, and then when I took up coaching, they told me, I'd never be able to coach and things like that. And, and I do it with hard work, sheer work. I have some great people around me as well. When I came back from Melbourne and took over the Bullets, they said, "Oh, you'd be happy if you finished 8th or 9th this year, because you got a young team, blah blah blah." And they said, when we started at Auchenflower, and the president said, "What are you looking at?" And we're sitting in the stand there one day. So I'm just thinking how I'm going to fill this stadium. And he said, "Oh, you would be happy. You do well if you can do this one side," which was about 300 people. And, and I said, well, yeah, I'll fill this side, all right. But I said, I'm going to put 500 seats on the other side, which I did. And I had 1,500 people there one night. We're sitting in the stairwells. I had government people, councillors sitting in the stairwells. There was no VIP treatment. And, I achieved that. And then when the next year we had a chance to go to Boondall, they said, "Oh, the committee were all up in arms and saying, 'Oh, you're crazy, you should stay here and consolidate.'" I went to Chandler, and we got 4,500 people there, We won the championship there. Then that wasn't enough for me. We had an opportunity to go to Boondall. 13,000 people. We filled that place. We had the largest crowd there. It was the largest venue in Australia. I did all those things, and people said I couldn't do them and it wouldn't work. To hell with that. I knew what I could do and I knew what I wanted to do, and nothing was going to stop me. And I'm very happy and I'm proud of what I've done. I didn't, when I come on to shows like yours and things like this, it it stirs me up and it enthuses me to think, heck, I've done all this stuff. I didn't, I don't sit around or go around telling people I've done all this stuff, but you brought it out of me tonight that, yeah, these are the things I've done that I've read. I get criticised because I don't push myself enough, and I should be out there. I'm not like that. I just think I will earn that respect and things like that. And if people don't want to respect me or anything like that, well, that's so be it. But, and I've got a lot more things to do yet. Don't worry about that. I'm not finished yet.